share some. Hey everyone, and welcome to my channel. I'm Nikki, and in today's video I'm sharing a Sunday reset with you guys. If I have a scratch on my face, yeah, I definitely do. I was just playing with Pluto. He's right behind me, and it was kind of my fault. I took his toy and he jumped at me and got a little scratch. But anyway, you want to say hi, Pluto? Come here. You want your toy? Anyway, I'm going to be sharing my Sunday reset today with you guys to hopefully give you some motivation, some inspiration, share some different ingredients that I prep that keep me on track with my weight loss and maintenance journey. And overall, these Sunday resets just really set me up for success. And I also get some cleaning and organizing done as well. So that's the plan for today. And I hope you guys have been enjoying these videos. I've been doing them a little bit more frequently because they honestly just make me feel better and more set up for success in general. Having these ingredients prepped and stuff ready throughout the week really just makes it that much easier to stay on track, and I'm a lot less likely to get takeout food, which is always tempting for me. Anyway, I've got my list. Actually, this is the last one I did, but down here I've got my new list of things that I'm going to be doing today. So in the kitchen, I'm going to be prepping some like hash brown egg scramble. I'm going to do chicken burgers, homemade blackened chicken strips for the first time, protein waffles, and veggie mix. And then I've got some cleaning tasks. I want to do some things in the kitchen, organizing some spices and stuff, and then I've got something in the bathroom that I have like this little organizer that I want to set up. So hopefully we get to that. But if you enjoy this video or find it helpful, please go ahead and give it a like and subscribe to my channel. I really appreciate it. I didn't have a protein coffee today, but I am going to have one of these. So these are meant to be like a knockoff of the sparkling ice caffeine waters that I've really been enjoying. That's just the Aldi brand. So it's sparkling frost and it's got 70 milligrams of caffeine. This one's black raspberry, which is the other flavor that they have from the other brand. So I'm gonna try it really quickly and see what I think, if it tastes like it. It smells kind of like it. Now I can't remember what the other one tastes like, but I feel like this one almost has more of like a vanilla-y flavor, whereas the black raspberry is like very berry. Either way, it's nice and refreshing because it is carbonated. It's nice and cold right now, but I'm just gonna be drinking that while I get all of this done today. So I already laid out all the ingredients. You can't see. I do need to clean my table in here, but I laid out the ingredients in the kitchen of everything I'm going to be prepping. I like to just kind of sort it in piles to get it ready, make sure I have everything, because once I start prepping things, it just goes pretty quickly. Especially today with what I'm doing, I'm gonna have a couple things going at once. I'm going to have my griddle set up to do the blackened chicken strips and the chicken burgers, and then I'm going to have my waffle maker set up to do the waffles. So I'll kind of go back and forth between that while I'm also cooking the veggie mix. The last thing I'll do is the hash brown mix, because I'm going to add the cooked veggie mix into the hash brown egg scramble that I'm making. What that's gonna be is just kind of like a filling for like breakfast burritos, or sometimes I just have it as a bowl, like a regular hash brown scramble. But either way, that's the other thing that I plan to make. So let's head to the kitchen and get started. I wanted to get the blackened chicken started first so it could sit for a couple minutes to marinate in the seasoning. I got 2 packets of chicken breast strips from Aldi. I had never seen them before, but they're definitely convenient for something like this. I kind of prefer the chicken breast over tenderloins. So I just put both packs into a bowl and tossed the chicken in some olive oil with some blackened seasoning. It was just easiest to put some food gloves on and then toss the chicken around to make sure it got coated, and then I just put it aside to let it sit for a few minutes. I also added some garlic salt. Then next I started chopping up the veggies for my veggie mix that I'm making. Every time I make one of these, I get a comment saying I should use a veggie chopper, and I do have one. I always forget to pull it out for these veggie mixes, but also sometimes I just prefer the bigger, non-uniform chunks of vegetables all cooked together for this, and when I use the veggie chopper, it makes them like perfectly little cubes, which is always perfect for like soups or salsa, but when it comes to the veggie mix, I just never end up using it, but it does work. But anyway, to make this one today, I actually chopped up a red and a yellow onion. I had a decent amount of them in my fridge, so I just decided to chop those up. Then I've got 2 orange bell peppers, 1 red bell pepper, and a zucchini. I've been using my newer caraway pans to make things like this veggie mix, and when I do cook with them, I cook at a much lower heat, so it's just a little bit lower than I used to do for my veggie mix, but I just add each veggie in as I go. And if you don't like bell peppers, zucchini, or onion, you can definitely sub in and out different vegetables. I know a lot of people like to do carrots, mushrooms, broccoli. Honestly, whatever your favorite vegetables are and whichever ones go with different meals, that's what I like so much about this actual mix. So I just continue to cook that, stirring at a low heat, and then I've also heated up my griddle to start cooking the blackened chicken tenders. As much as I like to grill, it's currently covered in snow, so the griddle is the best thing for doing a big batch of meat like this, and it'll also be how I cook the chicken burgers later. I don't think it's necessary, but I always end up spraying this with some nonstick spray, and then if you couldn't tell, right away it started to burn, so I started to put the chicken down as quickly as possible, but it all worked out, and I'm just making sure that it's all evenly getting distributed. I let them cook at a medium heat for about 3 to 4 minutes, and then I flipped them over, and when I did this, I also sprinkled on a little extra of that blackened seasoning. Then I just let them cook for a couple more minutes, and once they were done, I just piled them onto a plate. There was a lot of extra like juice and seasoning, so as I was taking each one off, I was kind of like wiping up some of that juice to give it some extra flavor. And like I said, I'm using this for chicken burgers as well. So once I got all of the blackened chicken tenders off of the griddle, I just used a paper towel to wipe it down quickly. I don't press too hard because I don't want to scrape it, but this really works well to just clean it quickly. Then speaking of chicken burgers, I started making the patties for them. So I start with 2 pounds of ground chicken, which is 0 points on Weight Watchers. I add in some different seasonings, some panko breadcrumbs, and an egg. I used a little bit of onion powder, garlic salt, and then I have a Weber cookout seasoning. I added a little extra garlic salt just in case, but I just used some food gloves and mixed the meat together with my hands. Using my food scale, I put the bowl on it, zero it out, and then I add the portion of meat and divide it into 8 equal patties. I turned the griddle back on and waited for it to heat up, and in that time I started cooking up the hash browns that I'm going to be using for my hash brown scramble that I'm making. Multitasking when I do these Sunday resets really does make a difference. It allows me to get more things prepped in a shorter amount of time. But once the griddle was heated up, I started forming each portion of meat into a burger patty. I usually like to make 10 burgers out of the portion I got from 2 pounds, but today I just did 8. I wanted them to be a little bit bigger because sometimes I end up having 2 patties, so I figure doing about a 4-ounce patty is perfect. But I get those all cooking on the griddle, and then I almost forgot one of my favorite seasonings just from my local farmer's market for burgers, so I just sprinkle a little bit of that onto each one. And while those cook, I continue to get the stuff ready for the hash brown egg scramble, which I've got these chicken sausages here that I'm just dicing up. With this breakfast scramble, it's similar to the veggie mix where you can just mix up what you add to it, whether it's a different cheese, protein, or vegetable. Sometimes I do bacon or ham, but today I just happen to have some chicken sausage. And I usually let the hash browns cook for like 8 minutes or so before I start to add anything else. So I just continue stirring those around in the pan that's at like a medium-low heat. And then I'm just cracking the eggs that I'll be mixing into a bowl so I can scramble them before I add them. And I timed it perfectly because right when the veggie mix was done, I could add it into the hash brown scramble I'm making. So I just took a decent amount of that and mixed it in with the hash brown potatoes. I don't really cook that much longer. I just go ahead and add in the chicken sausage and mix those as well. And then it's time to add in the scrambled eggs. I pour the eggs in and then I just kind of quickly mix them around to get the hash browns coated in them and moving quickly so that they don't get too dark. I kind of like my eggs to be a little lighter and like on the fluffier side than overdone. So I make sure to just continue mixing it pretty frequently. And a lot of the times when I add the eggs in, I will also just turn up the heat so that it cooks a little bit quicker because again, I'm mixing it pretty frequently. I also added in a serving of reduced fat shredded cheddar cheese and just mix that in as well. Sometimes I'll use this on like a breakfast burrito or I'll have it plain and I'll add some extra cheese if I want it, but this helps to give it a little bit of that cheesy flavor mixed in. So now the egg scramble is pretty much done. It came together really quickly, so I just set that aside and get the mix ready for the waffles. So I add a full box of protein buttermilk pancake mix from Aldi with some cinnamon, coconut brown sugar, a little vanilla, some fat-free milk, eggs, water, and then I also add a splash of some of that cinnamon vanilla sugar-free syrup. I find it's easiest to add the water as I go to get it to the consistency that I want, so I just do a little bit at a time. I end up getting to about like 1.5 to 2 cups of water used, but like I said, I just mix it till it gets to the correct consistency here. I decided I wanted to add just a little bit of extra cinnamon, which I always have to double check when I go to pour it, and I always think I have the wrong spice, but it was cinnamon. And then I've got my waffle griddle heating up here, and I just spray it with some nonstick spray and use an ice cream scoop to scoop the batter out. I used to try to like pour the bowl or put it in a container that I would just pour out, and that was a little bit more difficult than using the ice cream scoop. So that's become my favorite method to do that. But once that hash brown scramble was done, I started putting it in a glass airtight container to store in the fridge. And I realized it made way more than I expected. So with the extra, I just wrapped it up into 2 La Banderita low-carb tortillas. And then I'm just going to pop those into the freezer, and Adam can take them to work as a breakfast burrito. I just wrap them in an individual foil, and then he takes them to work and usually just pops them in the microwave to heat them up. I continue to check on the waffles and flip them when they need to be flipped. I had to change the garbage before it started overflowing, but one thing that has been nice during these Sunday resets is I just pull the garbage right next to me, and it just makes it a little bit quicker to get things done. It also doesn't help that I have my camera tripod set up, and when I run past it, it shakes, so it's much easier to just have the garbage by me. But anyway, I continue to make batches of the waffles, so whenever one's done, I just spray it again and add the batter divided evenly. Then while those cooked, it was on to my next task, which is organizing some of my spices and seasonings. It really wasn't too bad, but I like having organization. It really does save time, and I feel like I've been wasting time looking for different seasonings that I need while I'm cooking. So I more so just wanted to get everything sorted out into sections so I know where it is. But I had some random bags of pretzel salt that were open from when I get like the freezer packs of them, and I just combined them all into one container. I still like to have pretzel salt on hand. I did end up finding a few that were expired, so it was nice to kind of just clean and get rid of those. And at first I was just going to move things around and get them organized, but then I decided to just take everything out and put it on the counter and sort it out into piles to put back in there. I started making different piles, so I've got one that's more things for like baking and sweet seasonings. I also found this churro popcorn topper. I didn't even know we had it. It wasn't even opened, so I'm excited to try that one out. But anyway, I've got a pile of my most used seasonings. Then I've got one that's just like basic spices and seasonings, basil, cumin, all that stuff. Then some of the different seasoning blends, like all the Flavor God seasonings I put together. How many times can I say seasonings while I do this? But this was just such a nice and quick way to get them organized. And then I started putting them back in order so that they had a spot. On this bottom row, I'm putting all of my most used seasoning blends and things like that. So a lot of Kinders are my favorite, and some of these are too big to go in my actual pull-out drawer of spices, but I do also like to keep that stocked, and I forgot to get a clip of it after, but I did fill in the spots that didn't have spices. So it doesn't even look that much different, but it is so much more organized now, and I know where everything is. And during this time, I've still continued to just cook waffles, but the next thing I wanted to do was wipe down these cabinets. I ended up doing all around, but I'm just showing this one side. I could not find the bucket that I wanted to use, so I just used one of these big plastic bowls and filled it with some warm water and some Dawn dish soap. And to be honest, there was some like sticky residue closer to the bottom of the floor across it, and it's just from our shoes and walking, and honestly I hadn't cleaned this pretty much since we'd moved in, so it was desperately needed. But I was surprised with how easily it was coming off and just being cleaned. Even the bottom was probably the worst part, and it was just wiping off nicely with the rag and the soapy water, and then after that I would just kind of dry it down with this cloth. So it worked out really well. And now that I've done it, I know that it's a task that I can do more consistently and just stay on top of, so it'll get added to my cleaning list. And I didn't even think it would make that much of a difference, but now every time I go in the kitchen, it is very noticeable, and I'm just really happy with how it turned out cleaned. Then moving on to the last organizing task I had planned, I ordered these clear drawers off of Amazon, and I didn't actually do the measurements. I just got the biggest option, so it didn't fit the way I wanted. I thought I'd actually be able to stack it 3 high, but I did find a way to make it work. So first thing is I'm just clearing all of my stuff out from under here. This bathroom is where I just prefer to get ready, so it's a lot of like my hair products, some makeup things, and I just needed more organization. The drawer above them is nice and organized, but underneath is not. And I was hoping the drawers would be long enough that I could fit my like curling iron and straightener and stuff into them, but that didn't work out. So I had this basket that fits them perfectly, and I just ended up stacking it on top of one of the pull-out drawers. So I was happy with how that worked. And then my plan was to just put more of like the hair products in the left side. Those are all the taller products anyway, so it actually worked out well. I've got my lotions and hairsprays and stuff in there. And then in the smaller one next to it, I wanted to use for more of like my skincare items. So that's all that I'm putting in here now. I was nervous that I wouldn't be able to open the drawers having them side by side, but it actually worked out perfectly and the drawers work nicely. So in the top one, I just put some like ponytails, headbands, stuff like that. And then my makeup bag went right on top. So another task that probably took me about 10 minutes and it feels so good now. Everything has a spot so I can just keep it clean. Then heading back to the kitchen, everything is done. I just love when I have a counter full of prepped food like this. I already put the veggie mix and the hash brown scramble into airtight containers. I'm just letting them cool and then I'll put the lids on and pop them in the fridge. And then I actually do pretty much the same with the blackened chicken, the waffles, and the burgers. Sometimes I put the chicken tenders or the chicken burgers into a gallon freezer bag and pop them in the freezer to use later, but I think we'll end up just going through these, so I put them all in the fridge. So I've got everything prepped. The last thing that I was finishing up, just the waffles. It is always nice that those can just keep cooking. Sometimes I'll just like set a timer so that I know to go check on them, because if I start doing another task, I completely forget. But I got these done, and I also got all of my cleaning and organizing done. I didn't take on too much today, but it always feels good to just get a couple things done at once, and it doesn't seem so overwhelming that way. I did have some extra of my hash brown scramble that didn't fit in this container, so I actually just put it into 2 La Banderita tortillas, and then I'll just pop these in the freezer and they'll be ready for Adam to take to work. Then I just put my veggie mix in a glass container like this. I let it completely cool and then I put it in the fridge. I've got my chicken burgers that I'll use throughout the week for bowls. Sometimes I just have them on a bun or bread or something, but they work well even in like pasta and stuff. So I'll probably just put these in an airtight container as well. And then my blackened chicken, it looks really, really good. I'm actually gonna try it, although it's been done for a little bit, so it's not warm, but I just wanna try a bite of it. So here's what it looks like. It looks juicy. I'm kind of scared it's gonna be spicy. I kept adding more seasoning, but let's see. I'm waiting to see if the spice comes. Okay, yeah. It's definitely got a kick to it after. It's not as seasoned as like the blackened Tyson chicken that I get, but I didn't think I was going to get it as coated. This is actually a little bit better. It's not too over the top. Sometimes that is just a little too spicy for me. It honestly does have a pretty similar taste. It's nice and juicy, and now I've got a lot of it prepped for the week for a bunch of different meals. So that wraps up my Sunday reset. I hope you guys enjoyed this and found it inspiring or motivating. Maybe it'll help you get motivated to get some ingredients prepped for the week, set yourself up for success, or even do a quick cleaning or organizing task, because even the small things really do add up to big changes, and it makes a big difference when it's organized and clean. I feel like most people can agree with that. So anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this video and found it helpful. If you did, please go ahead and give it a like and subscribe to my channel. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.